So what happens when your wool ends up like this? I'm not going to lie, crocheting can be infuriating as well as being brilliant for your mental health, but when it ends up like this, it's rather annoying. So I'm going to show you a way of winding our yarn. So my husband actually made me this. However, you can buy a similar kind of things on Amazon and from your local wool shop. They are just a manual winder. So to start, we're just going to lay our wool into this little rivet here, and we're going to start to wrap around, and you want to wrap several times. Once you've wrapped several times, you're then going to start to form a pattern. Try and keep your little tail hanging out of the way, and we're going to wind like this. And then once you've done 4 or 5 of those, just turn your winder, and we'll do another 4 or 5, and then just turn it, and we're just going to repeat the process, and eventually you will begin to cake your yarn. So we just wind it round in across 3 or 4 times, and it does take a while. However, it is so worth it, because once you have finished this, you'll have a lovely centre pull, but you'll also have an end pull as well, so you'll be able to use your wool from either end, and it will just flow so much better than it does off a shop bought yarn ball. So if we find a tangle like this, my first tip to you is going to be, do not pull. As soon as you pull, the wool will tighten. So we're going to try and find any yarn that is looped over, and we're just going to very, very loosely try and unhook it, and you will see that you will free up more and more yarn. If you pull, what will happen is the fibres will tighten together, and it will take you hours and hours and hours to untangle your yarn. So don't ever pull, just very loosely like I am here. Just try and lift the yarn away from itself, and then you should avoid any tangles in your yarn. So that will free us up some more space now to keep caking our yarn. And the more you do it, the faster you become. And then if you want it more round, if you want it more square rather than round, you can go through the centre like that and then just fold over it. Just use your thumb to hold it in place as you do that. As once you let go, it will just flip everywhere. So as you can see, we've got another tie here. Again, once more, I am not going to pull. I'm just going to very, very gently lift the yarn away from it. Never, ever pull your yarn, because it will just end up in a complete and utter tangled mess. So as you can see, this yarn is still really tangled here. So I'm just going to keep pulling out the yarn and trying to find the ends that have tangled. Can you see there? So that one, if I would have pulled that, that would have just tightened into a knot and just made a complete and utter mess. It's really easy as well when you're weaving onto or winding onto your ball that you do pull. So just be very, very gentle as you're doing it, just so that you don't pull, and try and twist rather than pulling. And as you can see, it loosens off without forming any knots. So I am not pulling, I'm just trying to find ends that are tangled and then loosening those ends and untwisting rather than pulling. And eventually you'll be able to feed your yarn through. Just giving yourself lots and lots of length now. Whoops, a daisy, lots and lots of length now. And again, not pulling, we're untangling all the way through. And as you can see, this is the state of our yarn. It's awful. If we were to pull it, it would just end up in a mass of knots. And as you can see, this is becoming really, really loose now and easy to do. I have found a knot there, so I can just try and find the source of the knot. So another top tip is to use a table or something flat to lay it on. If you're doing this in the air or sat on your lap, it can tangle. So try and keep a flat surface where you can, just so that you can lay the yarn out and you can see where there are any tangles, and that will help you to untangle them. Now if you get a twist like this, again, don't pull. Try and lift the yarn and flip it all over so that you're not creating any knots and that you're just loosening it all the way down. Because once again, as that is twisted, if you were to pull, we know what's going to happen by now. We are just going to end up with a mass of knot. So as you can see, I'm loosening it off. It still looks like a massive mess, but please bear with me, it does loosen up really quickly. Now when I first started crocheting and I would end up with a massive mess like this, I would just pull and pull and pull, get a knot, try and undo the knot, and I would spend 3, maybe 4 hours just unravelling a ball of wool. And to be honest, it probably wasn't worth my time. I could have gone to the shop and just bought another ball of wool and chucked that all in the bin, or used it for scraps or stuffing, rather than waste so much of my time. But I didn't want to waste any wool, so I would just sit there for hours not knowing any of this. If you do find a knot, you can untangle your knot like so. Always keep your yarn really loose, and as you can see, it has probably taken me 10, maybe 15 minutes to get all of this yarn here untangled, which now I can just wind on my ball, and that took a handful of minutes to do. And then another top tip that I like to do is I like to keep my yarn in bags. So once I've balled my yarn, I keep them in just a very simple food lock bag, and then when I'm storing my yarn balls together, they don't tangle to one another and they tend to stay in place. If you've got the time, you could just leave an air gap and maybe use a hoover and just suck out the air, like a zip lock bag that you'd put under your bed with your clothes in, and it would do the same kind of thing. So I hope that helps, and I hope I've saved you a lot of time. And yeah, good luck in untangling all your balls of wool, and hopefully it will lead to a lot less waste of yarn. Enjoy your detangling.